Hi everybody, Dr. Bob here, and I'm recording a series of videos to help college students be more successful. The topic for today is time management. As you can see from the information in the graphic provided, the Bureau of Labor Statistics did some research into how much time college students spent on a variety of different activities. And it's pretty clear from this that the typical college student spends more time on sports and leisure activities than on classes and studying. For those of you that are going into the more challenging of classes and in fact in challenging career fields, this might not be good enough for you to be successful. So, here's a dose of reality for you. As an adult, you are the one who gets to decide what you become and what you achieve. And if college is important in achieving your dreams, then you're going to need to make sure that you schedule time for the important things, such as going to class, studying, doing homework and other assignments. If you have a job, it's important to go to work. It's important that you keep family commitments, and it's important to relax and occasionally sleep. So, I'd like to talk about some things that you can do to be more successful with your time management. First thing you have to do is identify your priorities. Hey, you have to find the things in your life that are most important to do to make sure that these are a priority and that they get done. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to come up with a list of things that you do in a typical week, and after you name an activity, I'd like you to give it a number from 1 to 4. Something that's a number 1 or a category 1 would be most important. Something in a category 4 would be least important. And then I'd like you to, on a separate sheet of paper, organize all the category 1 materials together, and then all the category 2, and then 3s and 4s. So, if here you're writing out the different things that you do in a week. Work might be a category 1, particularly if you are paying for things yourself or paying for your expenses. Hanging out with your friends is an important activity, but when you're rating it, it might be a 3, category 3. Exercising, wellness is very important, so you might consider exercise to be category 2. Sleeping, I can't emphasize this enough. If you are chronically exhausted, you are not going to be a very effective student. So sleep should be a priority. Eating should be a category 1 priority. Netflix and chill, well, maybe in the great scheme of things, you can go without that for a week or two. That means that you get all of your studying done. Silly cat videos, same thing. That might be something lower down on your list that you do perhaps as a reward for doing your studying. Date night, I think you could make a case for being important to have time with your partner who might be supporting you in your college career. When you're done listing all of your weekly priorities, group them together. So put all of your category 1s together over here, all of your category 2s together, all of your category 3s, which are nice to do but not necessarily essential. And then I call category 4 the time wasters, the things that are not really important but fun to fit in if you have the time for it. Once you've got all these categories grouped together, then I want you to find a calendar in order to set up a weekly schedule. Now, this is a real simple calendar I put together in Microsoft Word. The type of calendar that you choose is completely up to you. You can choose to use a paper calendar, you can do a weekly organizer, you can even find a calendar app for your phone. What matters is that you choose something that works for you and allows you to set your priorities. Because what you're doing is planning your work, and then the rest of your life is spent working your plan. So after you've got your calendar, you're going to start filling in first all of those category 1 activities. Again, it could be the important stuff like going to class, family obligations, sleep are all category 1s. After you've filled in all your category 1 activities, then you fill in your category 2 activities. And if we're talking about classes, I would expect that classes would either fall into category 1 and category 2, as would be the studying for these classes. They should be some of your top priorities. Now, how much time should you spend for your classes? Well, it varies with the class. I teach biology and anatomy and physiology, and I tell my students that A students will put a minimum of 10 to 12 hours each week into these classes, and you need to schedule this time. And also, since I teach lab classes, Make sure that you schedule time to do your lab work as well as the work from the lecture class. After you're done filling in categories 1 and 2, then you can fill in category 3, and if you have time remaining, you can fill in your category 4 activities as well. But it's important to be honest here, because in the beginning of the semester, when we're all enthusiastic, we might schedule 12 or 15 hours of studying, but that kind of tapers off as the semester goes on. But if you know you need to do 12 hours a week of studying, plan to study at times when you're awake and alert and more likely to follow through with it. So your completed schedule might look something like this. This is a screenshot of a calendar I made a few semesters ago, kind of a typical anatomy and physiology student. It has time for sleeping, which you see are the times that are grayed out. It has time for waking up, going to different classes, studying for specific classes, has time for work, and as you see here, pretty much the entire week is scheduled. After you create your schedule, it doesn't do you any good if you don't refer to it. So I encourage people to make multiple copies of their schedule and tape one to the bathroom mirror at home, put one on the dashboard of their car, tape one to the front of every notebook and every folder, put one in your phone. It's important that when you have a schedule like this, you look at it and refer to it every day. Especially, I recommend first thing in the morning before you go to school and at the end of the day as you're starting to plan out what happens the next day. And if you're good at keeping your schedule becomes a habit. And once it reaches a habit, you're going to be less likely to blow things off if you're feeling a little like pulling up that Netflix account. And if you're relentless about keeping your schedule, there might be times that you can change things around. If a friend calls and wants to go out for an hour or two, you'll know that you can make up that couple hours some other time. If you are keeping your schedule regularly, the next step that really will put this exercise over the top for being helpful is for you to plan out what you're going to do during those study sessions. So what I recommend that you do is take something like the little composition book here and write down what you're going to do before you actually start to study. What are you going to study for which class? How are you going to study for a class? What's the plan? What are you going to cover? Here's an example of a worksheet I give students in some of my classes. I encourage them to write down the study location, the date so we can refer back to it at a later day, the time of day, because what often happens is studying gets shunted off until 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. And if you know when you're going back through some of these old schedules, you see, oh, well, my 11 o'clock study sessions aren't very effective. Well, you know that you need to change some things up. I also encourage you at the end of this exercise to evaluate if you met the goals that you had set for the study session, and to talk about if you didn't, why didn't you, and what can you do better next time you are studying. And then finally, at the end of every week, I encourage you to reflect on how all of your week's studying went. I encourage you to write this down in that composition book because it really forces you to look at your studying during the week and find out what were the things that worked so that you keep doing them. What were the things that didn't work that you need to throw out and try again? Did the plan work? Did you have enough sessions? Were these study sessions long enough? Did you use your time effectively? Because we might say we plan 2 hours to study, but if you're checking your phone and playing around on the internet or whatever your particular time waster has to be, sleeping, that might not be a good use of your study time. And then again, what do you want to do differently in the future sessions to make them more successful? Please don't forget, you are the one who gets to decide what you become. Setting your priorities, creating your weekly schedule, and doing your best to keep that schedule will help you become that person that you want to be. So good luck, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.